Hello, everybody, or the handful of people that have joined up for this afternoon's chat. My name is James. I'm one half of the Planet FPL podcast. This is my regular Friday afternoon stream. I know many of you have probably got used to what I do with the Champman FPL streams now on Wednesday nights and Saturdays. So we don't want to leave this one behind. This is open forum and a chance for obviously you to come in and have a chat with myself, ask me anything, and I will get into the detail as long as it's generally football related. If there are no questions in the chat, then essentially we just shut this down and nothing happens. So do need some questions in the chat for those watching currently now on YouTube. I'll just run through obviously what we've done so far this week, might prompt some thoughts in terms of questioning. So on Monday, we recorded Series 3, episode 41. I suspect that Series 3 is not ending anytime soon, unfortunately. And we'll probably get into some detail maybe on this now in terms of football and a potential restart or lack of restart. We spoke about that. We spoke about the takeover at Newcastle. We spoke about what's happening in Scotland. Tuesday's People's Poll was this mad-ass football squad Premier League builder challenge, which had a plot twist near the end like no other Planet FPL podcast ever. Essentially, there had to be an additional recording because of a major screw-up during the recording. I lost 2 days of my life trying to put this squad together where basically you could only pick one player. You had to pick a squad of 25 players. Had to be players that only played for one club in the Premier League. You couldn't pick another player from that club. You couldn't pick another player from the same country. And you had to assign them a squad number between 1 and 25. And it had to be a squad number they wore for that club in the Premier League. And I'd like to take this opportunity to apologise to several people who I've probably ruined their lives this week by trying to undertake this challenge, including my own on Sunday and Monday. And I may have a go at redoing it to make it a little bit better than what I ended up with, because I'm convinced I can keep making it better. But I think I came up with the strongest squad that I've seen so far. Wednesday, we did a quiz on Premier League hat-tricks, which I think was good fun, quite historic, going all the way back to sort of 1992 and obviously upwards to now. So it was 20 questions with 35 possible answers. And yesterday we had a revisit to the Keegan era, looking at the period, his first period mainly at Newcastle United, when he kind of saved them from dropping into the third division in 1992 to then being miles clear of the top of the Premier League within 4 years. We talked about that journey a little bit, some of the players, the great entertainers, as they were so called. And obviously did my Champman FPL live stream on Wednesday night. Thanks for all joining in with that. I'm enjoying them so much, more than anything else in my life at the moment, other than spending time with my son. It's really good for me. So keep pushing me to do it, and I'll keep doing it. And I'll be back with that about 2:30 till 5 o'clock tomorrow for Champman FPL game week 8. Right, so let's get into the chat. FPL Cobbler's in, says afternoon, mate. Thanks for doing this again. Straight in with a CM0102 question that you're probably waiting for. Ledley confirmed to start. Worth a £4 million punt for a month while Richards is out. Yes, he probably is. The scout Rob Pick has confirmed via his Twitter feed that Ledley King will start tomorrow. It's also a start for Matthew Effinson in that game. Ledley is $4 million, as you know, basically my favourite ever Spurs player. And he's worth a punt. That said, I probably wouldn't expect clean sheets to be rocking in. It's Blackburn at home, Manchester United at home, and Middlesbrough away. Blackburn, we know from those who are playing the game, go very defensive away from home. So potentially a good alternative punt for tomorrow. I think those who don't have Casey Keller in their squad, like I do, it's probably a better move. I don't want to end up in a position where I got 2 Spurs defensively. Sod that for a game of soldiers. I know how shit we were back then. Basically, Spurs have conceded 1 goal in every game so far. So not doing too badly. So you're at least picking up the 2s and that. But yeah, there aren't going to be many clean sheets. But $4 million doesn't particularly matter. So Ledley short-term offers great value. It's worth saying that these midweek fixtures coming up, which in the simulation in midweek, obviously we'll cover tomorrow on the Saturday, are the last midweek Premier League fixtures. Bearing in mind we're in going into game week 8. until I think it's game week 18 or so, which is the Boxing Day fixtures. So for those like Spurs who are not in Europe, you haven't got to worry about the rotation as much as you might have had to do for tomorrow. So yeah, Ledley's a fine pick as fifth defender, 4 million. Very decent. If you were going to get him in, I would start him in that fixture against Blackburn and then reassess. Nick Griffiths in the chat says, hello Nick, how you doing? Alex, hello James, Perlo's Pen here. I never knew, Alex, that you were Perlo's Pen. How are you, mate? Hope you're well. Angus McPhail, afternoon, how you doing? FPL Badger, Norwich correspondence in the house. Hi James, Champman, thoughts on, it's going to be lots of Champman shit, isn't it? My YouTube channel has been infested with people playing Champman FPL 0102. Hi James, Champman, thoughts on playing this week with no goalie? I have Keller and Schmeichel out, but plan Rebroff to Ruud as my other move. Going without Ruud Van Nistelrooy at home to Charlton tomorrow is going to be dangerous. One of the things I keep speaking about is that you need to be trying to find the differentials. What's important for those playing the simulation at the moment is to understand the time to look for the differential and the time where you have to go with the herd. For me, captain Van Nistelrooy tomorrow is almost essential with that home fixture against Charlton. And no other kind of obvious alternative. That so you might argue Rebroff, but as much as Blackburn have been defensively shit away from home, have been losing games like 1-2-0 and that, so aren't going to be huge returns. Obviously, Van Nistelrooy could go mental. He could blank, but I think Van Nistelrooy captain tomorrow is one really, is to go with the herd. It's not the time to be playing around and being clever when Manchester United have a really solid home fixture. So, yes, understand that. Mark, you've got Keller and Schmeichel. So Keller would be back for you for the Manchester United fixture. And I think obviously Schmeichel will be back for that game week as well. Tempter, I've got Keller and Hislop. I'm going Hislop to Sereni, which as a Norwich fan will obviously please you greatly that I'm going for an Ipswich player. I had wanted to go for Trico or Horidason last game week. The Malbronk injury forced me into a rethink where I ended up with Fanini George. It's a perfect opportunity for me to go to Sereni. As those who watch the stream would know, I did want to go to Flowers because Spurs Leicester rotation defensively is quite good for a really long period. Ipswich have a number of good home fixtures. Leicester, but Ipswich have a number of really good home fixtures that's consistent. So it just feels like with Trico now injured for a month, kind of takes that problem away. I just go Sereni and Keller. And then I think what I'll probably then be doing is where the plan was to go Flowers and then Leicester defensively. I'm now going to end up with Sereni and possibly looking at something Leicester defensively to give me some budget option defensively because they go to, I think it's Villa this game week, and then they've got a little succession of nice home fixtures. And there's certainly one game week coming up, might even be game week 10, where there's some dirty away fixtures for some of the big sides. So, I do want some good little coverage in there, potentially from Leicester as well. So I'm going Sereni. I think Keller and Schmeichel, I can understand that, but you might just want to hold off. The only issue with that is, Mark, let's say that Neil Sullivan and Peter Enkelman perform really well this game week. Is it guaranteed that either of those two are going to get back in? That's the only thing. So I think actually, Mark, I'd be tempted to take a hit. And if you're going to get Van Nistelrooy in and captain him as well, that's potentially going to cover off some of your points hits. So I would probably take the hit, Mark, is what I would do there. Brad Lewington's in the chat. So Paul Coleman saying hello. Paul Coleman saying was just listening to the Wolfpack quiz. God, that was hard. Great effort, James. Yeah, that's from sort of 10 days ago. I lost out by 1 point. Guy in FPL Irons did incredibly well. He did say to me off camera afterwards, he felt he's about 10 years younger than me. He felt he was quite fortunate that a lot of the questions were over the last 10 years rather than further. But then he's at a disadvantage being 10 years younger. I've been drunk for the last 20 years in the main, so I struggle with some of the more recent stuff sometimes. Luke Porty says, hi, mate. Andy Martin, one of our Champman FPL heroes in the chat, says, good afternoon. How much do you think Albertini should be? Well, I don't know enough about his Champman backstory or what his capabilities are, Andrew. You'll know that better. Basically, whatever Luke says is about right. I know Luke was of the opinion that the secret signing for Arsenal was probably going to be Redondo, but he's Albertini. I think depends, right? Is he a sitter? Can he replicate what Vieira may or may not have done? I'd think about 7.5. It depends. Is he going to be allowed to push on from midfield or not? And I guess until you start simming, you're not going to know it either. So perhaps a look at what he'd done historically, goals-wise at Milan, etc. Whatever, basically, Andy, whatever Luke says, I'm down with. I'm cool with that. Paul Coleman, come on then. How did the Middlesbrough drinking game start? So in these Champman FPL streams, this Ask James is going to become a Champman FPL live stream, isn't it? That's cool. I have no problem with that. Basically, the Riverside motherfucker comes from the wife. I have to give her full credit for that. Where we used to watch a game, and they'd be like, "Oh, we're going live now to the Riverside," and just instantly she would say, "Motherfuckers," and it comes from a song that was released about 10 years ago. I think if you just search in YouTube Riverside Motherfuckers, you'll probably find it. And it comes from that. And as soon as everybody hears the song, they go, "Oh, I remember that one." So then I said it a couple of times in the first live stream that I did, and I hadn't planned to. I just said, "Oh, we go to the Riverside or something," and they say, "Oh, motherfuckers," and people seem to think it was hilarious. So now it's become a bit of a drinking game during the live streams, that whenever I say it, you have to have some drink. So I probably over-egg it a bit too much. They're at home tomorrow as well, so expect more of it. Yeah, that's the story anyway. Brad Lundin, I've had to unfollow the official FPL account. The admin hates Brighton and Shane Duffy. I messaged Shane Duffy myself, right? Because they sent a message out, a tweet out. Was it last week or something? And they were like, yeah, this time last year, everyone was captaining Shane Duffy. Okay, fair enough. One tweet. Then they followed it up with a second one, properly like digging him out. And he responded, he was like, yeah, I get it, shut up. So I just messaged him. I tweeted him. I said that Shane, don't stress about it, mate. They're quite attention. They need attention, particularly at the moment. If that account's feeling low for itself, he's got no content to provide or anything, is it? Should probably be watching my live stream, shouldn't they? That would give them something to do. No, I wouldn't do an official FPL 3 p.m. live stream for real Premier League football. I'm watching Spurs before someone puts that in the chat. Paul Coleman, best 4.5 and under defender. I think, obviously this is for the Champman game. I would say at the moment, Hreidarson at Ipswich, I would say, as a short term. And Ledley offers a good short term. Staunton is beginning to become like a 4 million. He's not in my squad. You just throw him in, it gives you an extra 0.5 somewhere else. And I wouldn't stress about playing him. I'd fit him in when they've got really nice home fixtures like Blackburn, Everton, perhaps Charlton, West Ham, a couple of others. But I wouldn't play him often. I think, although he didn't play last game for Hreidarson, and it will make him far more likely to play this coming game week as well, by the way. I know Luke was saying on his stream with Andy from Let's Talk FPL that Hreidarson doesn't get rotated much. So I think that was just a bit of an anomaly for game week 7. So I would say Hreidarson at 4.5. If I was buying defender this week, I didn't have the goalkeeper issue, I would probably go Hreidarson. Jeff Holt is in the chat. Hello. My wife is so switched on to Riverside profanity. I dread the day when someone says in polite conversation, "We had a lovely picnic by the Riverside." It's all you'll ever hear forever now, Jeff. Heavy Finger 7. Cheers, James. Hanging out with us this afternoon. Great as always. Appreciate that, pal. Luke Portis. Barca interesting in taking Ndombele and offering players in exchange to Spurs. Could be a good deal for you. The problem with that is, Luke, Ndombele is the best midfielder at the club, although he hasn't shown it yet, and we need him to turn into a top player. Otherwise, we need to buy 2 central midfielders then, and we need to buy 1 as it is. So, yeah, I know they're trying to offer around, obviously, Coutinho at the moment. I know a lot of people think Coutinho's regressed at Barcelona and Bayern and that. I was in Munich in December and I thought Coutinho was fantastic. Still absolutely got it. I'd love him at Spurs. Why would he come to Spurs? No idea. So I think Coutinho is going to be a good catch for someone. I've heard Chelsea mention that. The problem with the Barca players that will be getting offered to say Spurs, Luke, is wages, mate. Spurs ain't going to be offering big wages, the sort of wages that Coutinho will be on and want. So don't see it. Perhaps is what would be better for Spurs to try and exploit if they decide they need the money on Ndombele, and he is a sellable asset because of his age. He's only 23. The Spurs should really be attacking the best young kids in the Barcelona squad, I believe, rather than, to make the stars, rather than perhaps attacking the big guys. I certainly wouldn't complain if a Coutinho rocked up at Spurs. Absolutely not. But I think Spurs would be better off if they're going to engage in talks with clubs like that. He's actually saying, nah, we don't actually want your stars. We want 2 or 3 of your best 18, 19-year-olds or something for the longer-term prospects of the club. Bearing in mind, he's probably not going to be able to spend huge money on transfer fees, certainly in the next 5 years or so, I would say. Heavy Finger Sema, ever think it would be a good idea to own Ruud van Nistelrooy and also Henry, or is this scenario will never be of interest to you? Yes, it's obviously referenced back to Champ Man game. Yes, there's definitely a case for having both, particularly if there's great rotation for them at some point in terms of the captaincy options. Henry's been very unlucky so far. 3 1-pointers being subs between minutes 45 and 60 is astonishing. He will have a great run. People from simulations, and again, Luke has obviously done a bit of detail. He seems to think that actually Henry's performances during the course of a season do sometimes start slow, and he does get he does improve as the season goes on. So absolutely, yes, it's okay to have Van Nistelrooy and Henry. I think then that you can't consider your Verons, etc. Your third forward probably going to need to be sort of max out, sort of Pedersen, Canute, Jason Newell level or lower, which is still absolutely fine. And then top price midfielder, you sort of Kjell, Selakovic area, that kind of thing, to make it work and spread your funds properly. Because one of the things you'll find when you go to the 213 million forwards is you start scraping, going, oh, go that 4 million defender, I might play. We know you need a strong bench in this game, so just have to remember that. But yeah, absolutely. I would imagine at some point this season I will have Van Nistelrooy and Henry. Whatner Graphics, hello James. Who was your first footballer's autograph? Mine was David Seaman at QPR. Boo! His low voice scared the crap out of me as a kid. I'm afraid I have no idea what the answer to that question is. Not a clue. If I have any, they're at my dad's house and I don't know where they are. Not a clue. Couldn't tell you. It's probably someone around about Gascoigne era or something. Possibly even earlier, actually, maybe like a Hoddle or an Ardiles in the late 80s. I know my dad took me to something when I was about 3 or something. I don't remember it. Alex says, I've gone with 4 times premium defenders, 3 times 10 million forwards, and absolute shitters in midfield. Think more and more will move towards this too. Yes, quite possibly. Plus, you've got a number of great people at the 6 million valuation, such as obviously Norberto Solano. I think Anders Svensson is a name to really watch in the next coming weeks. Southampton have some interesting fixtures. They'll be very under the radar at the moment. So yeah, it's very conceivable to end up with 5 sort of 6 million midfielders and rotate them. I don't think that's the worst strategy. You're still then only putting sort of 30 million into that squad. And then that obviously allows you sort of a Henry, Van Nistelrooy plus a Shearer, Rebroff, whatever. Brad Lewandon, James, what's the earliest you've left a football match and why? I was talking about this yesterday, although it wasn't at the match, but I was watching when Newcastle beat Spurs 7-1 in 96, 97, right towards the end of 96. Me and my dad watched it on the big screen in the stadium. It was freezing cold. We were 4-0 down after an hour and should have been about 8-0 down. That was enough. The earliest I've left the ground at White Hart Lane was probably the 6-1 against Chelsea. I left when it went 5-1. I also left when we lost 5-0 to Liverpool in 2013. I left at 4-0. I had enough. I couldn't take any more. Watching that, it was unbearable. Those would be the 2 that I've left earliest. Pretty sure that's right. Other than that, I think other than those two games, I've not left more than, say, a minute early when we've been sort of 2 or 3 goals down. I genuinely will always stay to the end in the hope. The 4-4 against Arsenal, I wasn't at the Emirates that day. When obviously we scored twice in injury time, was always don't ever fucking leave early. And I've always been like that unless the game is 100% dead. Zach, do you remember the score between Spurs and Fulham at White Hart Lane in 2012-13? It's Bale's last season. Yes, I do. Berbatov scored for Fulham. Yeah, Spurs had a really good ending to that season, but basically missed out on Champions League qualification that season because of 2 consecutive defeats to Fulham and losing to Liverpool at Anfield with 2-1 up. Jan Vertonghen had scored twice as well. And suddenly being ahead, it put us behind. As typical, we'd beaten Arsenal a couple of weeks earlier and went 7 points clear of them, and they just managed to slowly eke it out of us. So yeah, 1-0 to Fulham. Berbatov scored. My man, FPL captain, is in the chat. Our friend Chris. Hello, mate. How are you? Thank you for everything with the graphics, my friends. You can give him a follow on Twitter at that handle. Alex Turner, are you surprised by how the community has come together and created CMFPL stats, game sheets, etc.? And is it a surprise it's been so successful? Not at all. Not at all. When I first heard about it, I wanted to get involved. Me and Sujan Manshoud sat down and actually basically had a meeting about the game and what we could do to try and get involved and stuff. And Andy's in the chat and he'll know some of the things and that, which will stay private between us. But yeah, someone suggested a stream, or I just decided to do it. I can't remember. And I thought, I'll give it a go. Game week 1, see if we get like 30, 40 people in. It'll be a laugh. And next thing I know, it's about 190 people sitting there watching me for 2.5 hours talking about a virtual simulated game from 18 years ago. But yeah, everybody's got involved. I think one of the reasons, I don't really want to downplay what's happened with the alternative virtual FPL game as well, but it's very, here's the scores, pick your team. The whole community is involved in terms of Rob Pick with the team leaks, Whitebeard with his stats and stuff, the Wolfpack guys with their podcast, what Luke and Andy are doing. So it's like almost daily content on it now as well. Obviously, the Twitter account that the guys do is great. They've got their live stream on the Sunday nights, which is essential viewing, 9:30 every Sunday night on the Fantasy Champman YouTube channel. So yeah, the thing is, it got started by people with respect to Dave and James Alapra, and particularly obviously Andy, someone who's been prominent in the community for a long time. I met Andy at a Planet FPL live show last year. Great bloke. So he had quite a following within the community anyway. He was quite well known. So it's something that's getting started within the community. It just felt like it mattered more to people. Okay, this is a cool idea. And it's a community run game played by people basically almost exclusively in the community. And everybody in the outside world doesn't like it, can frankly just piss off and do one. I am surprised it's grown to as big in terms of the number of players and the absurd number of people watching the streams when I do them and stuff. But I'm not surprised that it's proving very successful. The guys are doing an amazing job. Brad Lewin says the player Arthur that Barca are offering Spurs missed a handful of games early in the season because he contracted gonorrhea after sleeping with hookers. It's right up our alley then, mate. He was very good in the 4-2 at Wembley. He really stood out to me that night. It was the first time I'd really been out to watch him live. I don't get round to watching as much La Liga as I used to when it was on Sky and stuff. Yeah, Arthur would be a terrific signing for Spurs. If that's the sort of player I'm talking about, all right, he's already established in the Barcelona side, but his age is very good as well, rather than say Coutinho. It must be perhaps 30, Coutinho. Better profile player and choice that. And yeah, Arthur and Ndombele, if he can sort out his fitness, would be great for Spurs. Paul Coleman, can you see much or any transfers happening this year? Do you see much able to happen in the market? I think you'll see a lot of loans, which I'm never a fan of, but it's going to be a necessity at the moment. In terms of the number of transfers, I think I've spoken about this before, about trying to exploit certain markets, perhaps like South America, Belgian, Dutch, Portuguese, those kind of leagues where you can normally get better deals than if you're dealing directly with, say, a Spanish or a French club or something like that. So I think you might see more transfers from those kind of market. You'll see exploitation of clubs in financial trouble as well, because those in financial trouble are going to offer their best players to help keep clubs alive. So you might see a lot of signings perhaps from the Championship, from sort of mid to lower ranging Premier League clubs when football returns. I think a lot of loan transfers. I think you'll see a lot more players going out of contracts, which will mean free contracts. Obviously, when their contracts run out, I don't just mean this summer, but I mean in the future. You know, I think, for example, where you've got players who perhaps got 14 months left on a contract at the moment, they're obviously not getting offered a new one. And if we don't restart till, say, October or something, at which point it's actually in the player's best interest to go, well, I'm going to wait till January and weigh up what my options are from there. Bit to see more of that. The really powerful ones, Manchester United, Real Madrid, and that will probably still likely spend, but it's one of the most fascinating spin-off stories of this whole thing is what's going to happen with the transfer market. And it probably needs someone to, you get that sort of in the August window, don't you? At the end of the last few days, someone needs to start the chain reaction. And I think it will be a bit like that. And what Manchester United do, by the way, is not going to start a chain reaction. It will need, I don't know, someone like an Arsenal to go and spend 40 million on someone or something to start the sort of chain reaction. But I don't see clubs spending 40 million on chances, unproven players. You know, I think that, like, you know, Pepe obviously looked great in France, but that's a monstrous amount of money, isn't it? And he might turn out to be very good, but it's a real gamble now to go and spend 80 million on someone from Liga. And I don't think you're going to see those sort of transfers in the near future. Luke Porteous, I think Coutinho would massively help your team with Son, Kane and Ali, but yeah, wage an issue, like you said. Oh, he would definitely help. I love him as a footballer, Luke. I'm not saying I wouldn't want him. Absolutely not saying that at all. I just think with the wages, etc., just can't see it happening. He also says maybe Messi might come for a year cameo. Yeah, that's porn, mate. Brad Lund, I was at that Spurs-Liverpool game as my uncle took me. He's a Spurs fan. Suarez was unplayable. He was most times. He played against most people, to be honest. Brian, you was Terry Venables considered a Spurs legend as a player? Was he more fondly remembered as a manager? My dad, Brian, didn't think a huge amount of him as a player, actually, in the late 60s. He came with a big reputation from Chelsea. I think it was one of the transfers that started that rivalry for Chelsea supporters, the fact that Spurs basically took their captain, and then Venables was part of the Spurs side that then beat Chelsea in the 6-7 Cup final. I still haven't had an explanation from any Chelsea fans as to why they hate Spurs so much. Every other club in London is closer to them geographically than Tottenham. Manager-wise, obviously was manager of the 91 Cup winning side. One I might do actually as a throwback, which could be really interesting, is the Venables Sugar court case and what happened there in the summer of I think it was 93, wasn't it? That could be a good one to do as a throwback. Actually, wham! He tore the club apart, where Venables was trying to take the team and the coach in the right direction, but Sugar had more money, right? And Sugar was never going to take Spurs to the next level, and it was a big deal. Yeah, do you know what? I like that. That's a good shout. We might do that one. Fuck it. That's the Thursday throwback next week. We could do Terry Venables and Alan Sugar, the court case. Fuck it. And your Wednesday quiz is on the 2018 World Cup. Spoilers. Yeah, Venables Sugar, that court case. That's your next Thursday throwback. Most of you going, James, we listen, James, it's insight on Spurs, right? Heavy Finger 7, 3 clubs you'd love to see in the Premier League if they are well away in low leagues. Enfield Town, Barnet, and Woolwich. So Arsenal had a proper derby. Elite FPL Steve-O, hello mate. Hi James, what's more fun to cover, actual FPL or CM FPL? CM FPL, I'm not even joking. I don't miss FPL at all. Really don't. We're still doing the content and stuff, so it's not making a huge difference to my life. I don't miss the whole, I need to keep an eye on price watches, price changes at midnight on a Tuesday night and that. I don't miss any of that shit. And even if I'm not interested in doing transfers, I'm still needing to do it to stay relative to what's happening in the market for the podcast and stuff. Don't miss it. Don't miss the game at all. I miss football, obviously, but I don't miss playing FPL. The Champman guys are giving the fix for that, I think, at the moment. And many of us addicts, if you want to call us that, I don't feel like I am one, are enjoying playing the game. I think that's possibly why as well, Steve, as I said before, like me and Suj have never been fixed into we're an FPL only account. Obviously, it started that way, but since we started going to 5 podcasts a week from last summer, we've had the spin-offs with Tottenham, and even before that, we obviously had the involvement of the correspondence and stuff, focusing on club matters, for example. I've actually got an article coming up today for any Gooners in the chat that our Arsenal correspondent at 35 Who's written on Thierry Henry's return to Arsenal, which is a good little read. So we've never been attached to the whole FPL thing. So it's really easy for us to just change momentum. We picked up the Sky game and stuff. We did a quiz. We've done specials on Bury, Man City, racism with football, etc. So I don't miss FPL. I've got to be honest. I don't. I don't miss the questioning you get constantly. Should I buy a player A or B? Well, that's up to you, isn't it? I hate that. It really annoys me. I know that's what people come to bigger accounts, if you want to call me one, and say, oh, I want your advice, etc. If it's just a choice between A and B, you can make that choice. So I just tend to, I give people one-word answers, and eventually they'll go away. I don't miss it, Steve. I'm sorry. What no graphics? I did get Steve Hodges' autograph at Spurs. If that's any better, yes, Steve Hodge at Spurs in the 80s. Zach, thoughts on Ryan Sessegnon's debut season for Spurs, and what do you expect to see him in the future? I'm being really honest, Zach. I'm not going to answer that question. And the reason I'm not going to answer that question is towards the end of this very stream last Friday, I spoke about Ryan Sessegnon for about 5 minutes. So if you want to go back and listen to last week's one, catch up on that. But short and brief, I've got high hopes for him in the longer term as a left back. But yeah, I actually covered Ryan Sessegnon for about 5 minutes on this stream last week. James Jury. James, how's life, my man? You look taller on camera. That's because I intentionally put myself above the camera. It's all strategically placed, James. Now, question. If you could merge with any other FPL podcast, who would it be? Cough, cough. Well, I'm not just saying it because it's you, mate. But yes, when we started, I think you nicked a few listeners from us and we nicked a few listeners from you, because you're probably the most comparable and the most alike, although we are very different podcasts. And I would suggest that you and Bully are far more professional, shall we say, than me and Suj. So yes, I think if we were to merge with another podcast, yes, it probably would be The Surgery. James, you know, I'm fans of what you guys do and that. And if you want to do something in the next month or so, I'm happy to offer myself up and come on again, mate. I'd be delighted to do that with you. Nick Griffith, what the best performance you've seen live from a footballer? We, Fulham, got spanked 4-1 by United in the FA Cup quarter-final. Tevez individually tore us apart that day. What a player. The obvious one is Bale against Inter Milan. But actually, I would pick a game which many won't remember. It was a few years earlier. It was a performance from Dimitar Berbatov in a 4-1 win against Bolton in a league game. He didn't even score. We were 3-0 up early. Him and Robbie Keane tore them apart. Then Robbie Keane got sent off for a handball on the line, and he stayed up front on his own, and he gave them that absolute runaround. When Berbatov had to work hard, he worked hard, and this was an occasion where he went, it's just me. I'm going to do this. And they couldn't deal with him. He was astonishingly good. He's the best hold-up play I've seen from a number 9 in any football game. And I know you say, it's Bolton Wanderers. This was a good Bolton Wanderers. It was a Bolton side who had been in Europe at the time. I think they played Bayern Munich Might have even been that season or the season before. They were a good side. They weren't Mickey Mouse. Berbatov that day was incredible. That would be the best individual performance I've seen for a player playing for Spurs. Against me, possibly Messi at Wembley last year. Angus McPhail, speaking of Spurs transfers and championship clubs potentially needing to sell, is there anyone particular you can think of you'd want from the championship for Spurs? The strong rumours that Spurs possibly had a deal in place with Eberechi Eze of Queen's Park Rangers, who's a number 10 basically. So as someone I work with who's a big QPR fan as well, and he really, really rates him. So that would be the one I'd like to see, because it's been rumoured that it's on the cards, and again, it's the sort of one Spurs should be targeting in terms of age, profile, price of player. If it doesn't work out, the sell-on value is still there. Spurs have got to be conscious of these sort of things. So I would go for Eze from Queen's Park Rangers. Perhaps James can tell us from his podcast, Championship Focus podcast he did with a few lads, including our Fulham correspondent at the Tinkerman a few weeks ago, who he thinks. And James Drury is also saying, and who would be your ultimate all-time Spurs Arsenal team? I will disagree with your opinion, but I would like to hear it. Should we do it on the podcast, James? On your podcast? We'll argue over it. And I'd be very honest about it. There would be far more Arsenal players in it than Spurs players. Andy Martin, great Newcastle pod yesterday, James. Thank you, mate. Do you think Newcastle fans didn't win the league? Do you think Newcastle didn't win the league that year because Toon fans and Keegan got too emotionally invested and it affected the team? No, one of the things I meant to mention on that podcast yesterday, which we didn't, was obviously the fact that obviously at the start of the season, Alan Hansen said you can't win anything with kids. And actually Newcastle had a more experienced side than Manchester United. Difference was, although United had a very experienced side, they still had Schmeichel, Bruce, Pallister, Roy Keane, Eric Cantona. They weren't short of leaders going into that final running. And I think Newcastle suffered, but then they had people like Shearer who'd been through it, right? Shearer had won the league the year earlier with Blackburn in terms of going into that. I know Shearer hadn't signed yet. Sorry, apologies. But they had other players who'd, I guess, thinking about it, other than probably Peter Beardsley, they didn't really have players who had big experience of getting over the line. I don't think it was a case of they got too emotional, Andy. I think it was a case they couldn't adjust their style. Like I was speaking about when it went 3-3 at Anfield, they should have said, all right, enough. Go home with a 3-3. But they were intent on trying to win every single football game they played, and it's admirable. And we really shouldn't criticise that sort of thing. But in hindsight, you know, if they'd have drawn at Liverpool, held on at Blackburn, it would have been enough. They would have gone into the final two games in front, and I think then they would have definitely won them. It would have been a very different atmosphere when they played Spurs on the final day. If they'd have been in front, for example, they would have beat us. So I just think United got in their heads, and Keegan emotionally, it was his downfall, wasn't it? He's like a little bit like when me and Suj come up with an idea, and we got another one as well, by the way. And no, I can't say any more about that. Not yet. Maybe tomorrow on the live stream I might say something. But me and Suj come up with an idea. So like we have a discussion, go, should do a podcast every day. Yeah, all right, mate. And that's it. And I think that's how Keegan was. Keegan was like, you know what, I'm going to resign. And he wouldn't walk away for 2 weeks and think, am I making the right decision? He was very, very impulsive, and he just did it. I'm sure he regretted walking out on Newcastle. There's a couple of good results. Obviously, the 7-1 against Newcastle and the 3-0 against Leeds. They were still in the UEFA Cup as well. In the quarterfinals, obviously, the FA Cup hadn't started yet. They had a tie at Charlton, which was obviously the first game they played without him. It probably did have an effect on the players. One of the interesting things is the players at that time that played for that Newcastle team, if you'd ask them who was their favourite ever manager, they all say him. It's interesting that. And I think a lot of them really enjoyed that period together. A lot of them are apparently still friends. There's a historic side in Premier League history. It didn't win anything. And that was the only time they've really come close, Andy. Brian Yule says, how do you feel about Suj now doing some homework for the weekly quiz? Well, he's got to, Brian, hasn't he? Because his football knowledge is complete wank, mate. I think he was probably getting a bit embarrassed himself, getting 1s out of 20 and stuff. And I think the questions with multiple answers gives him a bit of help, because then he can get like 1 out of 2 or something. He can have some guesses at things. So I have tried to make them a little bit easier, the quizzes. I do struggle with that. But yes, Suj's last 2 quiz performances have been quite good. Let's see. We do 2018 World Cup on Wednesday. Let's see how he performs in that. Andy Cairn says, watch it, James. No questions. Just popped in to say hello. I'm busy waiting from home. Thanks, Andy. Hope you're well, mate. Steve-O says, really like that answer, because agreeing despite not playing CM, really enjoying your Saturday live streams. Thanks, Steve-O. That's nice, man. I have seen you pop up in the chat a few times. I appreciate it, pal. Same goes to you as well, pal. If you want to do something over this period, some content for your channel and that, I'm happy to get involved. James Drury from Surgery says, firstly, I hate you for not missing FPL. I can get away with it. Secondly, I think we are almost done for content until football is back, but definitely hit you up if we are. Thirdly, I'll think about that pod idea. You think about it, James, and let's do something. Fuck it, mate. You might think there's nothing FPL-wise to talk about. Your listeners want to know how you and Bully are, mate. That's it. Let's do a podcast. Heavy Finger 7, thoughts on Alderweireld and Vertonghen at Spurs, one staying on while the other looks to depart. Both have regressed. Vertonghen's legs are gone, unfortunately. I don't know what happened to him over the summer. Something happened. Something happened, because him and Alderweireld were still playing very well at the end of last season. Something happened. Toby started going a bit deeper, which I think actually will suit him under Mourinho, whereas obviously Pochettino always wanted Vertonghen and Alderweireld to play a high line, which when you think about it is quite dangerous, because neither were slow, but neither were drastically quick either. But they always seem to manage it really well. Great partnership. Definitely the best centre-back partnership Spurs have had for at least, 30 years. Certainly in the time I've been going anyway, comfortably the best partnership. It's a sad one. I kind of want Jan to move on for Jan. I want Jan to be happy. I don't want Jan sitting on the bench behind, with respect, the likes of Tanganga and Sanchez, because they're more athletically suitable to that partnership now with Alderweireld, because they've obviously both lost the yards of pace. And I think Alderweireld's knees are done from the injury against West Bromwich Albion in 2016, but he's managed to hang on in there, and he's the better defender, but Vertonghen's probably the better footballer. Tough one to pick one of the two. I hope for Jan that Jan moves on, actually, and I hope he goes and enjoys himself somewhere. I'd like to see him go back to Ajax or something. I think he'd enjoy it. It'd be good for him. I think he'd play regularly for them. I'd like to see him go somewhere he'd be happy in that. I think a lot of them Ajax guys are still quite fond of what they did there. Perhaps Toby can go and join him in a year or two as well. Jan Vertonghen's given Tottenham 8 years. It's a long time in modern football. I want him to go and play somewhere and be happy. If he can recover his form and his fitness from a year ago, I would love him to stay. I can't see it, unfortunately. And I don't really enjoy living through the watching someone regress alarmingly. It's not fun, because Vertonghen would be in like contention to be in the best ever Spurs team that I've seen. He probably would be in it. So I don't really want to go through the watching him struggle and stuff. I'd actually rather he moved on and was happy. There's not many players I'd say that about. FPO Andy says, if you could relive one Spurs game without knowing the result, which game would it be? Probably will be Ajax away, but maybe apart from that. Yeah. I'm not sure I want to live through the Man City one again. It's torture. The difference was, explained this when I went on FPL Family a couple of weeks ago. And Lee said to me, he said, you must have gone through some brown trousers during the Ajax game. And I said, no, not really. Except the Man City game where I went through with the brown trousers. Because the Ajax game, we were always losing. So, all right, yeah, it's stressful. You're in the moment. You're desperate for the goal and all that. But You don't when you're not winning, you don't have them nerves. I like sometimes in a big game, I feel worse when we're winning because then you get struck by the fear and stuff. And obviously, I've got Aguero, De Bruyne, David Silva, Bernardo Silva, all these lot coming at me, and we're hanging on at the Etihad with fucking Victor Wanyama in midfield by himself. So not that one. Games to relive. One of the last games at White Hart Lane, I'm tempted to say because of that, like the atmosphere in the last two, the wins against Arsenal and Manchester United. The Arsenal game, I didn't think I'd ever experienced a better atmosphere than that. And in the atmosphere, the last game against Manchester United was different levels. It felt like there was twice as many people in the ground as there was actually in the stadium that day. And it just never stopped. It was a banging atmosphere. I think I'd rather go back and live the White Hart Lane atmosphere again. Maybe one of the 5-1s, Chelsea and Arsenal in the League Cup semis. I'd love to live that Chelsea night again. We beat them in 01-02 actually in the semi-final second leg because it was so unexpected and we destroyed them. Alex, which Premier League player has the most red cards? Trivia. I'm not sure I know the answer to that. I don't know. Is it Vieira? I really don't know the answer to that. I feel like I should do. Is it Vidic? It's got to be someone shitter than either of those two players that I've just said. Let me know quick, Alex, before I shut down this stream, what the answer of that question is. Jonathan Nagy, what's the best goal you've ever seen live, Spurs or opposition? It was one I was talking about on the Champman FPL stream the other night, would come into contention. Stephen Carr against Manchester United in 1999. Same year, but earlier in the year, Ginola volley against Leeds. Andy Martin will be pleased with that one. FA Cup 5th rounds replay. There's a backstory behind that Ginola goal as well, which made it a little bit better. He basically hit the woodwork twice. One was one sensational run where he basically ran from the right corner flag and ended up on the left-hand side of the penalty area. Hit it back across Nigel Martin. He got a faint touch on it. Hit the inside of the post, rolled along the line. George Graham actually ran out of the dugout celebrating. And it didn't go in. He hit the post with another great shot as well. And then the next effort he has, the ball just dropped out the sky. And he's like, this time, fuck it, I'm going to smash it. He just caught it flush on the volley. Absolutely perfect. Even though it bounced in front of the keeper, technically brilliant. Goalkeeper had no chance. Those are the first two that spring to mind. Then the Ginola goal, same year again, 99, the goal at Barnsley when he dribbled past everyone. Those would be the top ones. Honourable mention to Gascoigne against Arsenal, 14th of April, 1991. Danny Rose against Arsenal, same date, 14th of April, 2010. Honourable mentions to them. Mad Freddie Canute goal against Everton 1 year at the Park Lane end. Scored a disgusting volley. Them, I think, would be the top ones. Honourable mentions as well for Kane's mask goal against Arsenal as well. Heavy Finger 7 with loads of YouTube hours now in content. How do you feel about audio only podcasting? Loving the video experience. We started recording the videos because people kept asking for it. So it's never been a thing for us to particularly push YouTube massively. I mean, we're just on the edge of 2,000 subscribers now, which is, it's not bad considering we've never really pushed a YouTube channel. You know, I push out the audio podcast and then when the video goes live, I just put a tweet out underneath and go YouTube link. And I suppose I probably don't even need to do that because those who are getting subscribed and on notifications will get the alert anyway. There are certain things because of the way me and Suj do it, not so much now from home, but when we're together, the visual, I think, does make the experience a little better for certain things. Because there's no script or anything like that. So some of perhaps the looks we give each other sometimes, especially like when he says something stupid and I'm like, which on the audio, I'm like, you need to finish your conversation. What are you talking about? And it will come off better on YouTube. But yeah, and then obviously from that, this idea started because doing the final plan on a Friday became really difficult for me because I normally am working from home on a Friday and babysit the little one. So it meant we'd have to record it on a Thursday, and it kind of felt like I wasn't really giving you what it was for, which should be the last minute news and stuff. It still works as a principle because we talk about our transfers and ideas and stuff like that for the FPL game week ahead. But I'm going to give some live content on a Friday. So that's why I think the YouTube channel's grown a little bit over the few months and so. Yeah, keep posting things on YouTube. All the kids will tell me it's got to be Twitch next and TikTok and whatever else that's going on. Alex, I need that trivia answer. So don't know the answer before I shut down the stream, or it's going to piss people off, particularly the audio listeners. There you go. Angus McFell, Vieira, Big Duncan Ferguson, Richard Dunn tied for most red cards. I'll take a win there on Vieira. Thank you very much. And I'll leave you on this before I shut down the stream, guys, from our Norwich correspondent, Mark FPL Badger. Most silly thing Suj said is when he thought Lincoln were called the Sausage Boys. Lincoln City, the Imps. Yeah, he thought their nickname might have been Sausages because of Lincolnshire Sausages. Go on, Andy. Martin, as it's you, I'll let you have one to go here, mate. Predictions for a few of tomorrow's games: Spurs v Blackburn, Borough v Arsenal, and Sunderland v Liverpool. I will go for a 1-1 draw in the Spurs game. I know. I will go for a 2-0 win for Arsenal at Middlesbrough. I'll go for a Sunderland Liverpool to draw as well, actually. 1-1. There you go. Some shockers in there. Spurs and Liverpool to drop points. Arsenal to win again. There you go. Hate that. That's not the way to finish, is it? Nah, actually, sod that, Andy. 5-0 Spurs. Redbrough hat-trick. There you go. That'll make people happier. Right, guys. Thanks for joining the stream this afternoon on YouTube. Much appreciated, because if you guys don't get in and chat with us, then it doesn't fucking work. But so much appreciated. I'll be back with the chat, man. Live stream 2:30 tomorrow. I hope we've got something exciting we're trying to work on for May. And once I can confirm it, I'll confirm it. There was one person who's been in this chat today who already knows about it. He's the only person who knows about it. But I'm hoping before the end of the month we can confirm something we're trying to put together as well, because you know me and Suj, we won't stop, kids. So thanks for joining in, guys. Enjoy your weekend. See many of you for the live stream tomorrow. Obviously, podcast wise, be back on Monday. For the benefit of the audio listeners, all that leaves me to say is ciao for now, and cue music, man child.